For square 1 cappuccino, you need to cast on using 3 separate balls of yarn, 2 of mushy and 1 of nutkin. I prefer to put my mushy yarn onto yarn bobbins. You don't have to do this, but it's just I prefer to work an intarsia square in this way. I'm leaving the nutkin as a whole ball. I'm going to cast on using a thumb method. However, it doesn't matter which method you use to cast on. What I'm going to show you is the same technique that you'll use for all your different casts on for joining in the yarns. So it's cast on 11 stitches using mushy first of all. So for thumb, I'm just going to wind off sufficient yarn to cast on 11 stitches. Okay, so I've cast on 10 stitches, which is 1 less stitch than what I need. And what I'm going to do, while casting on stitch number 11 using mushy, I'm going to join in the nutkin yarn. So I put the yarn around my thumb, needle through, ready to cast on, but I lay a long tail of nutkin over the needle so that as I go to cast on that stitch, it just catches in the nutkin yarn. I then bring the yarn, the ball of nutkin, round to the front. Make sure the mushy yarns are towards the back. And then I cast on 10 stitches using nutkin yarn. I'm working 9 stitches, and then on the 10th stitch that I'm casting on, I do the same as I did previously. That is to get the yarn around my thumb, needle through, ready for that next stitch, but to lay a long tail of the mushy yarn, just do that again, just over the needle, so that as I go to cast on that last nutkin stitch, it just grabs in, catches in there the mushy yarn. So I bring the new mushy yarn round to the front. All the old yarns are kept at the back. That's the nutkin yarns at the back. And then I cast on 11 stitches of mushy using the second bobbin of yarn or ball, and this time I cast on all 11 stitches because I've got nothing else after this to add to the casting on. And that's my intarsia cast on. To commence the next row right side increase, we turn the work around. Just going to make sure that all my yarns are untangled. Okay, And now I'm going to show you the next row right side increase. So this now becomes the right side of the work. So it begins with purl 3. Using mushy yarn, the first ball. Then it's knit 1 and increase into each of the next 4 stitches, and I'm doing that by knitting into the front and the back of the same stitch. That's 2 done. Three, 4, then the instruction is to knit 1 and purl 2. So then I'm going to bring the nutkin yarn to the front of the work, then this is very important. I'm going to cross the nutkin yarn, the new yarn, with the old colour. So the old colour, which is mushy, goes over to the left, and I pick up the new yarn from underneath so that it crosses. Then I'm going to purl 2, knit 1, then I'm going to increase into each of the next 4 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, then it's knit 1 and purl 2. And again, keeping the nutkin yarn at the front, bring the new bobbin of mushy to the front of the work, put my needle into the next stitch ready to purl, but before I purl I'm going to just cross the nutkin with the mushy yarn. So it's nutkin over the top of the mushy yarn, which means they'll cross. Purl 2 using the mushy yarn. Then follow the instructions to the end, which are to knit 1, increase into each of the next 4 stitches, knit 1, and then purl 3. You've then completed your increase row. To untangle these yarns, so you've completed your increase row there. All yarns now, the working yarns, are all at the front of the work, which is correct because we're going to be crossing these yarns on right side, on both right side and wrong side rows, but so that the crossover happens on on what is the right side of the work, which will create the vertical dotted line between the colour changes.